Welcome everyone to our Test Automation in ReQtest pre-release webinar. So this is Maziar Sal speaking, for those of you who recognize my voice or don't. With me, I will have Neha Gupta, our Senior QA Automation Expert, which has done wonders at ReQtest. So thank you very much for coming. I'll give this a couple of more minutes just to say, Neha, are you there and do you hear me?
Yes, Mazia, I can hear you.
Awesome. All right, I think we can go ahead to the next slide. So, as always, during our webinars, you will be able to ask questions. So the point here is for you to join a webinar to be as engaging as possible. So on the bottom right, we have a Q&A section where you can ask questions and we'll get to you in the end. If we can't get to you at once, I'll promise that we'll come back to you at some point to answer your questions. Also, on top of that, we do have our help pages. So if there's anything else ReQtest related that you're wondering about, I'll recommend you to start looking there. We also have our support to your disposal. And for those of you at Customer Success Management and want to get in touch with us to get in-depth discussion, please contact them. If you don't know who your Customer Success Manager is, just let me know, Maziar, and I'll get right to it. So let's go to our agenda. Let's see what we have on the table. So today we'll be covering a couple of different questions where I feel that a lot of our customers may be asking us. For instance, why do you need automation in this software or project cycle? What's the test strategy for selecting different automation frameworks? Or why would you connect ReQtest with an automation tool? And if you want to do that, how would you go about that? And obviously, this is a pre-release webinar, so we'll be covering features that we are intending to deploy at some point close time, and we will show you a demo, a sneak preview of how that will work out. So if we could continue on the on what's the goal of this presentation now, if you go take the next one. Yes. So the goal here is to understand the ReQtest future capabilities that you can utilize in your test automation journey. What that means is that we will, as I said, deliver new functionalities in regards to our APIs and integration capabilities that will enable you to utilize test automation with ReQtest. Now, there's a lot of things that needs to be done in order for you to do that. So the part of a goal of this webinar is really for you to gain insight from our partner Neha, and how to prepare, what are the things you need to think about, what should you and should not use automation for, and so on. Now, I'm also planning to actually can get back to you to other types of test automation webinars, more to the basics, and also a more in-depth when we actually will release the test automation. So we'll be getting back to this topic time and time again. But as always, if you have requests for topics, just let us know and we'll get back to you on that one. So on my next slide, it's really about who's here with me. It's Neha. And Neha is from Global Logic, our R&D partner. We mentioned this a couple of times before. And Global Logic, it's a great company. This is my second time I work with them. A big global software development organization in 14 different countries. And what's remarkable today from Global Logic is Neha. Neha is our Senior QA Automation Expert. And Neha is the person that's responsible for the over 800 automated tests that we use frequently. It started from zero with Neha, and now we're already here, and I'm expecting a lot of new great things. Neha is very experienced, as you can see. Neha, is there anything about you that you like to mention that I might have forgotten?
No, Mazia, thank you. You covered everything.
Okay, perfect. Then please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone, and a very good afternoon. From this webinar, my objective is to brief you on the upcoming feature in ReQtest, which will enable you to integrate your existing automation framework with ReQtest, help you in streamlining the automation process you might be using in your company, or rather inspire you for setting up the one if you don't have it. First, let me quickly highlight some key aspects on the need of automation, which I believe most of you can correlate if coming from an automation background, but if not, it will help you understand the concept and why industry is so inclined to have automation in their projects. So what are the challenges with the manual test? Manual tests are repeated often during development cycles for code changes, other situation like hardware configuration. There is a high possibility of uncaught errors in the application when the deployments are more frequent and the volume of testing is very high. Sometimes these uncaught errors can even put one's credibility on stake. Automation testing help us overcoming these challenges and build a quality product. Here are some of the facts related to automation testing. 70% faster. This statistic is drawn from our own experience while working with ReQtest. Earlier, when we had manual testing setup, team used to take whole day for regression activities. Like some, but the same task was accomplished in less than 2 hours when doing using automation. With saved time and efforts, test coverage is now increased as team can spend more time on testing tricky scenarios, which are often left in the application. Automation results are reliable as long as the test objective is clearly defined while writing the scripts. It saves cost. Automated testing can reduce the time to run repetitive tests from days to hours, thus significantly reducing the man hours and saving hugely on R&D cost. Improves accuracy. As we know, humans are prone to commit errors while doing repetitive work due to loss of focus, lethargy, but automation tools never get tired. So execution, consistency, and accuracy is always maintained. You can also schedule the test during off business hours using any scheduler. There are variety of tools available which you can kick off at this test, which can kick off the test at specified time. Thus, no human intervention is needed. So now we have seen some of the advantages and benefits we accomplish if we have automation testing in our project and why industry is moving on to automation. Let's discuss what should be automated and what not. Test that needs to be run against every build, such as smoke, sanity, regression, unit test, should be automated. Test measuring the overall performance of site, like load test, stress test, can be automated. Scenarios that take longer time to perform and may need to be run during breaks or overnights. Automating these tests will maximize the use of time. Tests that involve large volume of data as input can be automated. Scenarios that need to run against multiple configuration like different OS and browser can be automated. Test during which images must be captured to prove that application behave as correctly. Sometimes there is a need of from project also. So these can be automated also. Now, what cannot be automated? In the project where client sign-off is required for acceptance testing, automation is not recommended because that should come from the user experience only. So all tests that require a user to respond how easy the app is to use, overall look and feel, should not be automated. Test having no predictable results. For automation, we know that validation to be successful, it needs to have some predictable results, either pass or fail conditions. So those tests having no predictable results should not be automated. Test that requires immediate execution, like some tests we generally need to run immediately. So we need some time to create automation scripts. So that is not possible through automation. Tests that require ad hoc testing, random testing based on our own knowledge or expertise can of course not be automated. And CAPTCHA OTP submission is industry-wise never recommended as it is done through manual feeding. So now we have got quick glimpse why automation is needed, what are we going to achieve through automation, what can be automated and what not. Let's understand the strategy that we should keep in our mind when choosing a test framework, and also what all leading automation frameworks are available in our industry. Also, I will share which framework we are using in our project and what is the thought behind choosing this framework. The very first thing we have to look for framework selection is project need and domain of the project. Secondly, testing experience of your team, how much experience your testing team has. Programming skill set of your team member like Java, Python, C#, they are well versed in those language, how well versed they are in those language. Licensing and support cost for acquiring that particular automation framework should be considered. What kind of training doc support is available for the framework, and ease of understanding and learning. That also becomes an important selection criteria. So once you have this data available with you, then we can decide on an automation testing framework. In the right section of this slide are some of the known test automation framework. Let me give you a quick glimpse on how each framework will fit into your domain and need. Data-driven framework. So you can choose this test framework in your project if you require to test the same functionality multiple times with different set of data. For example, login scenario. Suppose you are working on a banking application and requires to validate if all your customers are successfully able to log into the application or not. Here you will pass the testing data, which will be your login credentials here in a file that could be text file, CSV file, or even an Excel file. So you can provide that data to the script and it will help you for choosing that framework. So this framework is most commonly used in supply chain and financial industry, where data is very crucial aspects of operation. This framework requires proficiency in programming language that is being used to develop test scripts. Second, we have a keyword-driven framework. Keyword-driven framework is designed to appeal testers with less coding experience. Because in initial phase, any skilled developer or maybe any tester from your team can write scripts for all commonly used actions on a website like login, search, click, navigate, and they can store them in a keyword repository. Then these functions can be reused again and again, even by a tester with no technical expertise. This framework can be more suitable for e-commerce domain. Now, coming to hybrid testing framework. This is, as the name says, this is a combination of two or more frameworks. The best thing about this framework, about such a setup, is that it
Neha, do you hear me?
as it gives us benefit of both keyword and data-driven framework.
Neha,
this framework can be used in most of the domain.
Yes. Neha,
Coming to behavior-driven development.
It's Maziar. Could you just take it from the beginning for hybrid test automation? Could you just take it again from hybrid test automation? I think we lost you in the middle. Thank you.
Oh, sure, Maziar. So third one in the list is hybrid testing framework. This is, as the name is suggests, this is a combination of two or more frameworks. The best thing about such a setup is that it leverages the benefit of associated framework. We, in our engagement with ReQtest, are also using hybrid framework, as it gives us benefit of both keyword and data-driven framework. This framework can be used in most of the domain. Coming to behavior-driven development framework. This framework allows everyone, such as BA, developers, testers from your team, to participate actively because it uses non-technical natural language to create tests. Some of the tools supporting BDD frameworks are Cucumber, JBehave. The framework we discussed are the most popular frameworks used by testing fraternity. There are various other frameworks also available which can be considered based upon your project need, skill set, cost, as discussed earlier. So now we have a good understanding on why to go for automation, what should be automated, and types of automation framework. Now the next question that should come in everyone's mind is why you should connect test automation tool with ReQtest. As the testing industry is moving towards automation, most of the testing results are available in automation tools. But these tools works as a standalone application to which only a QA or a developer has an access. In every project, apart from QA, devs, there are some important stakeholders like project or product manager, scrum master, client, who very extensively use ALM tools like ReQtest to track the work in progress. But they do not have an access to automation tools directly due to many reasons like licensing, permission issues, or due to lack of knowledge of those automation tools. This integration will enable everyone to have an access to test data from automation tool, which they can use in turn which they can use to evaluate the quality perspective before any release, and also to know if the delivery is on track or not. So now let's understand some of the vital objectives of this integration in details. Using this integration, user will be able to quickly sync automated test data to ReQtest. This integration will enable stakeholders to see better execution summary of automated testing results. User can use existing ReQtest features which are there in test run, which we delivered in the recent past, such as filters, export functionality, reports, and notify tester feature that will help them in preparing reports as per their need. In the start of next quarter, there are some more enhancements in the pipeline related to report module in ReQtest, which will help them in generating some amazing powerful reports. Usually, the team works on both automation and manual for same feature. So, and their test results might be scattered. So this integration can also be used to sum up the test results from manual and automation testing at one place. This can also reduce the redundancy in test cases. As we already discussed, all stakeholders will now have access to automation test results, irrespective of the time zone they are in. This is again a key aspect of this integration. This integration will not only enable our users to update the test results in ReQtest, but also create bug automatically in case of automation test script fails, which will result in quick turnaround time in logging, analyzing, and fixing the bug. So now we are aware about the need of this integration. Let me take you on an exciting journey and see what features and functionalities will be available to you post-release. Through this integration, you can have a test run automatically created for automated test cases when this execution starts. So you can, once your execution starts, you can have an automatic test run created. All your automated test cases can now be synced in ReQtest and link also as to the above test run created. Results of automated tests like pass, fail, or any other status will be published in ReQtest, as in when they are executed in the automation tool. The status will be totally based upon the mapping you will set during the integration. Also, on any automation, if any automation script fails, this integration will enable you to automatically create bug in ReQtest and link that bug to fail test case. Also, you can assign that bug to the developer for fixing. And as per your project setting, if you have enabled the email notification, the assignee of that bug will be notified for taking quick action. So this is where this integration saves a lot of time, as we escaped all the manual process of analyzing, creating the bug. And quick turnaround time will be there in notifying the developer. If your test automation tool also has the capability to capture screenshots, the same can also be uploaded to the bug report or the test cases. You can also link or comment, comment on bugs and test cases using this integration medium. Now, important question is how we are going to set up this integration and streamline the testing process. So the question is how. Here, the simple answer to this question is ReQtest Connect, our public APIs. We are coming up with public APIs for test run and test cases. If you are not aware, ReQtest already offer public APIs for requirement and bug module through a medium called ReQtest Connect. You can also visit our help pages to understand more about our current existing APIs and how to consume our public APIs. On the similar lines, we are developing APIs for test module to enable integration with test automation framework. With these APIs, you can connect ReQtest to any tool you have access to using any programming language you want. All you need to know is how to make API request. Let me show you a quick glimpse how you will see this feature. So in our website, we will have a configurable option where you can enable or disable the APIs. At any time, you will also have the flexibility to stop integration. If you want to stop syncing the data and stop the integration, you can deselect this option from the application and save the settings. Now, after enabling the API, the very main step is the authentication part. Your automation tool has to authenticate with ReQtest. So it has to be, of course, on secure platform. Here we are proposing two options. Either you can use your email ID or password to authenticate API, or you can use combination of email ID and API token, which you will be able to generate from our application. This is the market recommended way also, as API keys have significantly greater entropy and are much harder for attackers to compromise. So the next section has some dummy reference in API endpoints listed for you all to get a quick hang of what should be expected post release in terms of API that we will be exposing. So these are some of the endpoints that will be made public for test and bugs module. For example, the first one is endpoint will help you in creating the test run. Another one on the list is will help you in syncing the test cases from automation tool to ReQtest. And the last one on the list is this endpoint will add attachment on bug or test cases. So also reiterating that these are not the actual endpoints, but something similar will be published on our help pages once the APIs are ready. Okay, so coming to quick example of API structure. Post release, we will publish the related documentation for these API endpoints. That will also have structure definition, request response, that will enable you to consume these APIs in your automation framework. So you can set up that. Okay, so I'm excited to move on to the very interesting part of this webinar, which is live demonstration. Before I actually execute the scripts performing this integration, let me brief you with some details taken into consideration for this demonstration. This is based on our test APIs. Actual APIs are in development phase. For this demo, system under test is ReQtest.com. For the demo purpose, automation framework that we have used here is Selenium TestNG, which is written in Java. Here is a quick glimpse of the framework. Test cases written in this framework include some basic validation like matching the text on different pages of ReQtest.com. Assumption taken here is that ReQtest APIs are already consumed and implemented in our framework. So I have a file where all the integration part is done. So this is my file. Enable API flag has been switched on in ReQtest and authentication has been set up. For this demo, we have created a project which is that will be used for integration. So we have a specific project. So this is my ReQtest automation integration demo project on my test environment. So as you can see, all the grids are currently empty. So there is no data currently. All the test cases blank. There's no test run at all. So once I launch the scripts, so we will see what happens. So I'm now here going to trigger this execution. I have now my hands away from the touchpad as tests have started and everything will be automatic now. Along with script execution, there is a lot more happening in background. So as you can see, this is ReQtest.com and some tests being performed. Using the API we consumed in the code, automation scripts will now log in into ReQtest and do things like, creating test run, creating test cases. We mentioned in the script, creation of bug will happen in case there will be any failure. And also it will attach some screenshot of the failing point. And we have also include to add comment on the bug. So we will not restrict our users here only. Once the actual API will be developed, you will be able to do a lot more things. So in this particular test, which contains 4 tests, I have explicitly made one of the test case to get failed so that I can also show you the bug creation. So script is almost done. Yeah. So as you can see on my console, this is my console of IDE Eclipse, which few of you might be already aware of. So it shows me that out of my 4 tests, 4 of them got failed. Okay. Oh, so I'm getting some exception here in my API. So let me just quickly run once again. So let's go back. If somehow sometimes maybe some error is coming there, but maybe let's see if the integration happened here or not. Yeah, so basically test run got created, but it was somehow not able to sync with that particular API used. So let's see again. Meanwhile, I'm just clearing the data from here. So tests are, I think this is the third test case which is getting executed. So let's wait for a few seconds to complete the execution. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so now I can see that execution is working. So basically, maybe one of the API, because they are in test mode, they are our test API. So you can see now. Yeah, so test, I have all my test cases here, which I provided from my code. So all of the test cases are uploaded, are created here. We have a test run, which shows all these test cases, and all these test cases are also linked to this test run. And as you can see, the same results which I had there, like 3 of them were passed and 1 got failed, the same is synced to my rec test. So yeah. And also against the failed test cases, we have a bug already automatically created. So you can see, let's have a look on the bug also. Yeah, so here is the title also, automatic bug created on failure. This is the description of the bug. And I also assigned the bug to one of the team members. So here his name is appearing in the owner by default. And also I had used endpoints to write a comment saying this is an automatic bug created through integration. So this is also coming correctly here. And also we have a snapshot of the failing point. So in my test, I had failed this test case explicitly because the string was not matching here. The exact text which I passed from my script was not matching with the result. So we have taken a look on the bugs, test run, test cases. Now, as earlier mentioned, when I explained you why we need to connect ReQtest for integration purpose, user can also do so many actions which are required for tracking and reporting purpose. Let me show you a quick glimpse for that. So we have filter. We recently launched filter. So if you have a lot of tests coming from automation, you can simply directly go and apply any filter. Like here I choose past, so all my past results are appearing here. And also I can go into detail page and see a quick graph, like how many of my test cases got passed or failed. So it shows like 11 of them passed, not run. So I can use these features on top of the integration. And there is also notify tester option which we recently launched, which you can you can notify, you can send for the not run cases. So we have some not run cases here, so I can directly go and assign to my team. So a lot more thing you can do once you have all the data coming from the automation tool. So you can do what you want to do. This is up to you totally. So this brings to the end of demonstration. Hopefully through this demo, I have been able to give you a quick glimpse on what to expect from this integration and intrigued you in terms of functionalities being offered through this integration. Thank you so much for taking out time and listening. Over to you, Mazhar.
Thank you so much, Neha, for this. And I think, as the audience will see, I mean, there will be a lot of functionality on the ReQtest side of this. For instance, already, how much time did that test automation, the automated test take? And it's also the connection you can create to all the other different parts of ReQtest that can get highlighted, so you can actually work more as a team and make sure that the test automation team does not get isolated, that it's actually a big part of the project. So I think that's really interesting. But let's get over to some questions. So actually, one of the first question for you, Neha, it's one of my personal favorite questions. Is basically, when should you make a automated test from an ROI point of view? Like, when is it worth it? How do you go about that?
Yeah, sorry, Mazir, can you come again?
Yes. So when would you say it's worth it to automate a test? Like, how many times would you need to use a test before it's actually, the ROI is positive?
So I would say when you have a stable build. So as we know from the very first beginning, everything cannot be automated. So
Mm.
once you have a stable build, you have some positive scenarios working, then I think this is the right time to automate.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And while I take some other questions, the rest of you, if you have a questions, feel free to ask them. Now, to another question, uh, let's see here. Is there a recommended test automation tool that integrates with ReQtest? And I will start answering that one, and hopefully you can join me to support me. But basically, the way we're building this with our API and everything is that it should support every testing automation framework out there. Obviously, we use Selenium, and I think Selenium is the most popular selection oftentimes. But the way we're building it is not for one specific, but rather it should support most of your testing frameworks out there. Do you have anything to add on that, Tom?
No, Maziar, I think Selenium is the best choice for everyone in testing industry. It comes
Yeah.
open source, and there are some many flavors available with Selenium only. So as I showed you some few of the test frameworks available, you can choose any of the. You can go for BDD framework, which is Cucumber. So I think these all can be automated with ReQtest. So there is no limitation like any specific tool that will be integrated. So you can come up with any framework, Selenium or non-Selenium, and you can start using that.
Thank you. Now, to another question we got. I got that earlier on in the presentation. Is the first question was, when do you expect? When will you get that integration? When will we upgrade? Basically, when will this will be available? And for those of you who wonder, we plan to deliver this before end of Q1, so before March, hopefully. Don't hold me to that stick, because in the end of the day, it really depends on how much of this we want to release and how well we want to do it. But this is our intention. So until then, I think we can definitely discuss things, and we'll show you more things along the way. Now, on that same topic, another question was that, so when will the documentation for the APIs be delivered? And I think probably
Yes.
around the same time frame. We might be able to deliver them a bit earlier, but obviously, if you have questions about the upcoming documentation, feel free to ask me, and I can make sure that you get them as early as possible. And on that question, we got another question, which is if we are interested in doing the other way around with API. So basically, we would expose our API for the test cases that our customer would automate. And I believe that from the way we will design our integration and APIs, it will be possible for you to fetch as well, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Get
I have Tom here, our CTO, with me. When I get extra technical, I look at him very intensely to see if I'm going in the right direction, in case you're wondering. Another question, this is a good question actually, is that will we have a beta that that a customer can try to integrate with? That's a good question. I don't really have an answer to that, but I will bring that up with my product manager, and I'll get back to you, Matthias, on that. And if anybody else is interested in pre-testing, just let us know, and I'll see what I can do. To another questions here. So yes, I think I've already answered the API documentation question. Let's see. Yes. Yeah, okay, so this is interesting. A bug generated through ReQtest can be integrated to Jira or on any other tool. Yes, we already support this kind of functionality. So in the cases where you would have, for instance, say you integrate ReQtest with Selenium, you run that automated test, a bug is generated, and that bug is also, of course, generating ReQtest. If you have a Jira integration, which we already provide, a finished integration, which means you just go through a wizard, that bug would be reflected and synchronized in Jira as well. And with our current APIs, you could also actually take that information about, and you could put it in any other tool that you know, any issue tracking tool. So this is perfectly possible. Let's see, do we have any other questions? Um, here's here's a tough questions. If we have any agreements with test automation software vendors that can offer preferential pricing and support. Uh, at the moment, I would say this is so new to us that we don't have this kind of support. However, I think, you know, if it comes to the case where you are looking for people with test uh, automation expertise, feel free to reach out to us, as we do have a partner network of different companies that do actually have this expertise that can provide you some more insight to that. And as when it comes to these test automation frameworks, you know, like Selenium, it's an open source, so it wouldn't be Selenium themselves, it'd rather be a third party company with some thought leadership and some great expertise knowledge that they could share with you. I think that is probably the direction that we go. But again, if you have more direct questions after, you know, you all have my email, so you can always get back to me on that part. Now, do we have any other questions when it comes to the webinar? Well, if we don't have any other questions, I would like to thank Neha so much. So I feel great about doing this, because for so long we had the privilege to have Neha for ourselves. But today we get to share Neha's expertise. And as we've done before as well, is if you want to get to Neha, let me know if you have specific questions. I'm sure we can help out. In the end of the day, ReQtest is here to ensure that you achieve higher and greater quality in your projects. And we are not very picky of where that starts and begins. We'll always try to do our best to support you in your projects. Quality cannot be achieved just by a tool. It needs a lot of different things. So for that, we are also here. So if there's anything else, just let me know. And if not, thank you so much, Neha, for doing this. And all the people there in the audience, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us. As always, if you have other ideas for the product or for next webinar, you just let me know, and I'll take that into account to make sure that you get your response in some way. Thank you. This is Maziar and Neha. Well, we were happy to have you here. Until next time.
Yeah, thank you, Mazhar, and thank you everyone for joining and listening to us.